I go by the name of The Sam D. This is Timeline T, or the Sam D podcast. Call it what you will. On the audio side, it'll be the Sam D podcast. On the video side, it'll be Timeline T. This is the Sam D YouTube channel. All right, we're letting the vibes go. You see the homie Steph has tapped in. Corey has tapped in. Cowboy fans tapping in. This should be a good one. A lot of NFC East stuff going on. So it should be interesting to hear what these two have to bring to the conversation. Oh, there's going to be some things to get into tonight. There was a lot to talk about tonight. Did some teams get finessed? Is Howie back to cooking up? Let's stay on that fuck them picks wave. There was a lot to discuss. But let's start with the fact that Drake London makes more money than Myles Garrett. I mean, that to me was the biggest thing that I took away from the conversation, is that Drake London gets paid more bread, guaranteed, than Myles Garrett. That is the NFL that we're in right now, where Drake London, you could argue where he is in your top 10. You know, both Steph and Corey that are in the chat, they were part of the top 10s that I did last year, the mini docs that are still living on this channel. Drake London was not in that top 10. I think he received a couple of votes, but he did not make the consensus NFL top 10. So someone that was not even considered a top 10 wide receiver by those who know ball makes more guaranteed money than Myles Garrett. That to me is a problem. That to me is the NFL in a nutshell. That is where everything for me goes wrong for the NFL. That is where Exhibit A starts. That is where, when you talk about what the players union have and has not done, it starts there for me, that someone who is not even top 10 at their position is getting paid more guaranteed money than someone who is widely considered either A, the best defensive player in the sport, or B, the best player in the entire sport. So that to me is where it begins and ends. You know how we do it here. We attack the timeline. We comb the timeline, looking for the tea, looking for the information. Let's go ahead and jump right into the screen. The full blockbuster trade. The Rams get Myles Garrett. The Browns get Jared Verse, who is good. Damn sure no Myles Garrett, but it's good. A 2027 first round pick, a 2028 second round pick, and a 2029 third round pick. Now, essentially, the Browns, they already did some reconfiguring with the Myles Garrett contract leading into this deal. But now they're able to offload that contract and then take on a Jared Verse contract that is significantly less money. I think he's got 2 years left at $5 million per. Fact check me if you want on that. But it's a significant cost savings, right? Myles Garrett had to trade the man, I believe, two off seasons ago. And it was deemed to be taken legitimately, only for him to just take the re-up and get a bigger bag. And we all thought, oh, he played this for suckers. He played this for suckers. He made us think he really cared about winning, that he really wanted to get out of Dodge and escape the poverty franchise that is the Cleveland Browns, only just to take more bread to go back home to the crib and be quiet. Now he's able to slide up out of there and make the move to LA, and now the Rams are being considered a super team. We saw how close they were last year to getting to the Super Bowl. We know what they're bringing back on both sides of the ball. The additions they have made in the offseason, the Rams are starting to look the part of a super team. The Rams are in the mix in regards to both sides of the ball, assuming health on offense, and that's a key. They've bolstered the offensive line. We know that. But in terms of having Stafford and Nakua back in the fold and back at close enough to be in the top tier that they showed throughout the bulk of last year, if they're able to run that back with the run game, with the beefed up offensive line, McVay cooking things up continuously, now on that defensive side of the ball, you bring in a game changer, a difference maker, arguably the best player in the entire sport, and Myles Garrett. And yes, the Rams look the part. They are now the betting favorite, if I could find that window. They're now the betting favorite at plus 500, I think, if you want to drop some bread on the Rams. Did I not pull that? I did not pull that. I saw it, though. Plus 500 for the Rams to win the Super Bowl. And I believe the second highest favorite was plus 1,000. So that's how much Vegas has moved with just this one deal of the Rams acquiring the best defensive player in the sport, possibly even the best player in the entire sport in Myles Garrett. So from the Cleveland perspective, poverty franchise status is remaining. You can make the case of should they have shopped the deal better, whatever the case may be. I think if you are the Browns and you're trying to not necessarily tear it down and rebuild, you're trying to retool on the fly. Normally, teams that are good, that want to become great, do the retooling on the fly. But unfortunately, this is a team that is mid, that thinks they're good, that is trying to retool on the fly. Because you don't just get rid of Myles Garrett in a salary dump. You don't get rid of Myles Garrett with the assumption of, we don't have anything left, so let's just flip our best asset that's remaining. I don't think this is that move for the Cleveland Browns. I think this is a move where they feel as though, okay, we've had Myles Garrett for the entirety of his career. He has been the best player in the league, or at least a top 3 best player in the league the entirety of the time here, and we are no better for it. Now, that is their fault, but from their perspective, they can spin it, well, you've given us top-tier performance the entirety of your time here, and we're still a poverty franchise. So damned if we do, damned if we don't. Why are we going to keep paying you this top-tier bread if we're not getting to the playoffs with you, if we're not getting to a 500 record with you? How much better actually are we if we have Myles Garrett for the rest of his career? However long that may be. He may have another decade in him. He might have 5 years in him. We don't know. But if you're the Cleveland Browns and you're trying to assess, if you're trying to take this is a self-awareness trade from the Cleveland Browns perspective. This is a look for them in the terms of, well, look, shit, we ain't really doing that much with the boy. We ain't really going that far in the playoffs with the boy. We ain't even sniffing the playoffs with the boy. He's had to go through how many quarterbacks? He's had to go through how many DC changes? He has to go through how many head coaching changes? He has to go through how many losing streaks? And he has still performed at a top tier level and hasn't been that much of an issue off the field. What are we doing with him? The days of just having a dude and just having a really good player just be a franchise player for a middling franchise for the entirety of their career, those days are over. Okay, that narrative or that distinction is over. A player of Myles Garrett ilk should not have to waste away his career with a poverty franchise like the Cleveland Browns. So even though he forced to trade and end up being a pump fake, he ultimately gets the bread and gets moved to an actual contender. All is well for Myles Garrett. And if you're the Browns, you go out there, you get Jared Verse, who is, only got a couple of years left at super low money, and he's a really good player, so you're getting high value at a low salary, as opposed to Garrett, we're getting high performance, but at a very high price tag. Again, cost saving is a thing in this NFL thing. As much as we try to look at it as wins and losses, a lot of these maneuvers, a lot of these contracts, a lot of these wheeling and dealing is really based off of salary. It's the business side. As much as we want to focus on the football side of things, and I'm here for that, we can't ignore the business side of it. So Jared Verse, a first next year, a second the year after that, and a third the year after that. A lot of teams are wondering how come they didn't get a call from the Browns. If I'm the Browns, I'm not trading Myles Garrett within my conference. So that right there X's out, 13, 14 teams. Like, I'm not going to trade Myles Garrett within conference. Because if I'm ever trying to be good, I don't want to have to be staring at another team that has Myles Garrett on the other side. Can you imagine Myles Garrett with the Bills or with the Ravens or you're not trading him within the conference. Put him on the Chiefs. Like, you're not trading him within the conference. If you're going to get rid of Myles Garrett, you're sending his ass in the NFC. It begins there. So that X's out half of your market right there. So this notion that, and we'll get to another trade that people think, the Eagles should have, or the Patriots should have had to give up more or whatever. It doesn't matter. There's certain teams you're not going to trade to. Like, certain teams you're not going to trade a top tier prospect or value or a top tier type of player. You're not going to trade that to a in conference opponent. You're not going to do that, especially if you're trying to be good. So no, The Browns should not have shopped around Myles Garrett even more because half your conference, you're not going to trade him within conference, so that only leaves you with the NFC. And how many teams could legitimately, one, absorb the contract of Myles Garrett, and two, have the draft capital that they're willing to forego to go get Myles Garrett? It's a two-pronged approach. And then three, Myles Garrett wants to go there. Okay, that's another key component. Myles Garrett been a Brown his whole life. If he's going to leave Cleveland, I think he was content with staying in Cleveland. But if he's going to leave to go to a contender. So that X's out a significant amount of teams in the NFC. You can't just send him anywhere. That type of player, that type of stature, you can't just do that. So, y'all let me know your thoughts. Cleveland, do you like what they got in return? Do you see their perspective? Is this a complete teardown for Cleveland? Is this retooling on the fly? And then let's flip to the other side with the Rams. Super team or nah? Super Bowl or bust? You know, there's a narrative about Aaron Donald. Is he going to come back and all this stuff? There's a lot of things. Now, if Aaron Donald decides to come back, that changes the scope of this greatly. Like, I don't know what the term is, because now you could consider the Rams a super team with what they've done in the offseason. But now if they didn't be able to go get, Aaron Donald off the couch and have him pull up, I don't even know what that term is. I do not know what that term is. But let's hit the chat. Step in the building, second best CB for the AFC in McDuffie. Like that's what I'm saying. So not only do you go get Myles Garrett, now you got McDuffie on top of that to go along with a very good young core on defense to begin with. And then, oh, by the way, they got McVay. Oh, by the way, they have the reigning MVP in Matt Stafford. And oh, by the way, they have a top 5 wide receiver in Puka Nacua. And oh, by the way, they still got Kieran Williams and an upgraded offensive line. Okay. I know, yeah, Devontae Adams still there too, by the way. Top 10 wide receivers and the best player in the league. They are a super team. Yeah, facts. Factual. Super team loading. Patrick, what's good, my guy? Aaron Donald could do the funniest thing. That's the part. That's the part to me. Aaron Donald, and I have that tweet here from, where is it, Jordan Schultz? Yeah, Jordan Schultz. All right, so y'all see it here. I texted Aaron Donald about coming out of retirement and playing for the Rams alongside Myles Garrett. The quote, and this is a confirmed quote, the quote from Aaron Donald, I'm for sure flirting with the idea. Hell of an opportunity with the Super Bowl in SoFi this year. If I can find the fire, it's a possibility. If he can find the fire. That man been at the crib, chopping at the bit. That man, he works out with machetes, okay? Like, it's a different type of thing. It's a different type of thing when it comes to Aaron Donald. That man works out with machetes and cutlasses. Like, this is a different type of dude when it comes to Aaron Donald, okay? I think he can find that fire. If the fire is not lit now, that you have the remnants of a really good offense, as Steph said, 2 top 10 wide receivers, the reigning MVP, and you have a play caller that we know is one of them. Not we think he is, maybe, like, no, it's confirmed McVay is one of those. What they think some of these other gurus are, McVay actually is, okay? So from top to bottom, your offense should be good, and they went and upgraded the O-line. Now your D-line could be the most terrorizing thing ever on paper. And I know that sounds like hyperbole, but as an older dude, in my lifetime, I can't think of 2 better plays. Now again, Aaron Donald, he's not in his prime anymore. He's still really good. He's been retired for a couple seasons now, so, he's not that same dude. But whatever amount he comes back at, 90% Aaron Donald. The fact that you can have Aaron Donald and Myles Garrett on the same D-line, I can't think of a better one. I can't think of 2 better defensive linemen on the same line in my lifetime. I'm really trying to sit here and think. This is not 85 Bears. This is not the Ravens. This is not. I mean, if you want to go crazy and want to give me Reggie White and Jerome Brown, no, because Jerome Brown ain't no Aaron Donald. You could argue Myles Garrett versus Reggie White, but Aaron Donald is better than Jerome Brown, the late, great Jerome Brown. Rest in peace. And Reggie White, rest in peace. That Giants NASCAR line where you had Strahan, OC, Tuck. None of those guys are Aaron Donald or Myles Garrett. Give me the D-line, if this were to happen, that can stand toe-to-toe with potential Aaron Donald and Myles Garrett. I'm sitting here trying to think of one. I can't think of one off the top of my head. Charles Haley with the Niners or the Cowboys. Nope, there wasn't another guy on his level. No, I can't think of one, bro. I really can't. Not a super team. They drafted a QB in the first round. Yeah, but they have the reigning MVP as their QB, though. So, I mean, yes, you could use it as a thing to try to tear them down, but they also have the reigning MVP at QB. So you can't tell me they have the reigning MVP at quarterback, which is still allegedly the most important position in the sport. They have two receivers, one for sure top 10. You could argue whether Davante Adams is still top 10, but he's no more than 15. So two upper tier wide receivers, including one that could be top 5. A really good running back, an upgraded offensive line, a defense that's been bolstered in the secondary, and now on the D-line, it could potentially add another top-tier D lineman on top of that. You can't say that that's not a super team. Corey says Adam got hurt running standard routes last year. He won't play all season. Again, look, will he be ready for January? You don't need, again, if you're a super team, you don't need Davante Adams for all 17 games. You don't. You need him for January. You need him to be ready and fresh, ready to go for January for the playoff push. That's kind of like, KD with the Warriors. KD with the Warriors, they didn't need KD for a January game against the Brooklyn Nets. Didn't need him. They needed him in May and June. Those were the games that mattered that entire season. You go 73-9 and you lie and you trick off that 3-1 lead. It didn't matter about the 73. It mattered that you tricked off that 3-1 lead. You go get Kevin Durant to help you not trick off a 3-1 lead. Patrick McAfee text AD about retirement yesterday too. Look, I mean, if it's a no-brainer for Aaron Donald. And again, you can play this in a way where you don't even need Aaron Donald to pull up right away. Like, you don't need Aaron Donald for no OTAs. You don't need Aaron Donald for OTAs. You don't need Aaron Donald for 3/4 of the season. Tell Aaron Donald, we just need you to get that fire lit that you claim you need that fire lit, right? Go get that fire lit, and I'll come off screen here. Go get that fire lit, and then slowly work your way up. Be ready by Thanksgiving. We don't need you in September or October. Start ramping up to be ready for post-Thanksgiving. Be ready for Kwanzaa Eve. Be ready for that time frame. The Rams do not, unless Myles Garrett goes out there and blows an ACL or an Achilles, you tell Aaron Donald, if you're coming back, take your time. There is no rush. We don't need you until the winter pulls up. We don't even need you when the leaves turn brown. We need you when that winter chill is coming in. And again, you're in LA, you're not even going to feel it like that. They need that man for post-Thanksgiving around Kwanzaa Eve. That's when you want to see Aaron Donald on the field. If you're playing that game. If you're playing that game for the Rams, you want to see Aaron Donald on the field on the back half of the year, as opposed to let's rush to get him ready right now. He does not need to have his fire lit right now. That man does not need to be doing OTAs. That man does not need to be doing any of this stuff. Let him play with the machetes and the cutlasses at the crib and have him ready for Kwanzaa Eve. Then put him on the field. Then let's see how this cooks up. Because when you have those two types of players, they don't need chemistry. There's no chemistry. Aaron Donald could play any of the 4 positions on the line. Myles Garrett could play any of the 4 positions on the line. You could do them on the same side, opposite ends, put 2 of them in the middle, do whatever you want. Just let them cook up. They don't need 5 months of prep to figure out what to do with arguably two of the most dominant defensive players we've ever seen being on the same line at the same time. Corey, more of a season, why pick? Why the pick made no sense. More of a reason why, because they had well, look, here's the deal, right? And you know, I'll be clear with y'all. Me and Steph chopped it up in the group chat, and we were trying to figure that out. Like, what's the play with Simpson? Why take Simpson now as opposed to waiting? If you're trying to win now, which every team should be, but you know, it's sports and it's business and we know how it gets down. But if we're under the guise of the Rams are trying to win now, why did they do what they did in the draft in terms of drafting Simpson? I'm still of the fact of if Snead is on that fuck them picks wave, which he has always been, he's been 10 toes down about them picks, fuck them picks, right? If he's on that wave, but he felt enough about Simpson to not fuck them picks, but actually use the pick to go get Simpson, then that's how highly he believes in Simpson. We may not see it. And certainly from the video evidence and then quotes that came out right after, McVay might not see it. But clearly, the dude that is in control of them picks saw something. Okay? So, be that as it may, we have to, because of what he's done, and now we got to start to maybe bump him into some of these conversations with the upper tier of GMs. We have to start paying attention to what he's doing. And give him that grace, give him that benefit of the doubt, like we do with others. Steph, let me see if I can move this chat thing over. Okay, I can't move that over. All right, get in there QB early who can learn behind the reigning MVP is a steal. Mahomes set behind like Smith. Imagine Ty behind Stafford. Not saying Ty is Patty, but yeah, I mean, look, that's the key, right? Like, I don't see this as a thing where Simpson's going to sit behind Stafford for 3 to 4 years like Jordan Love and Aaron Rodgers. I don't see this as a Montana Steve Walsh thing or a Montana Steve Young thing. I don't see this actually low-key. I mean, it's a different scenario. But you could paint this as a Kurt Warner, Eli Manning thing. Like, you can, if you think Stafford is still that, I have my reservations against Stafford. Will always have my reservations against Stafford. That could be my time as a Bear fan back in the earlier part of my life. Still, you know, have some remnants of that left. But if y'all think Stafford is one of those, he's not getting any younger. He's long in the tooth. You're going to assume he's going to be on that Brady avocado ice cream wave, but he could just keep playing at a high level well into his 40s. I don't see that in Matt Stafford. So if that's the case, you're going to have some kind of replacement waiting in the tuck. So if you think Simpson is that, then you go get Simpson. We don't have to see it. We don't have to agree with it. But if Lee Snead thinks that that's the guy, even against the behest of his own coach, who's one of them, then who are we to judge? We got to at least let it happen. If it fails, and then we'll roast him for it like we do with everything else. But he has been clear on that fuck them picks wave. So if he then comes to a position where he doesn't fuck them picks and he actually uses the pick, then we have to say, oh, well, he must really be high on Simpson. Patrick, 75% Aaron is plenty for the Rams. Yeah, I mean, look, if you have Myles Garrett in his prime and a 75% Aaron Donald for the back half stretch run is light years better than what they trotted out there last year trying to beat the Seahawks. Okay, so if you can have that, that's still shitting on 90% of the D-lines in the entire league. A 75% Aaron Donald with 100% Myles Garrett. Steph Aguero came off the couch and did it. AD is a freak. I think he got it in him. No, for sure. I think that there is no doubt that if you told Aaron Donald, relax and ramp up and be ready post-Thanksgiving, that's light work. That's light work for him. I think he could definitely do that. I think that there's no way that there's not a scenario for me where Aaron Donald comes back and is not him. Barring injury. Anything could happen, right? Football field, they could play at MetLife with that shitty turf and stuff could happen. But assuming Everything is above board. Aaron Donald comes back, and 75% Aaron Donald, I think, can legitimately walk onto the field and still be a top 10 D lineman right now. If we give him the chance to ramp up and fire up and be ready post-Thanksgiving, I think he could still walk in and be top 5. All right, let's get back here to the screen because there's even some more stuff going on. So love that y'all are in the chat. Love that we got the chat working this week as opposed to last week. So I apologize for that, but we got it back. We figured out what was going on and we got that fixed. All right, so as you see, Browns trade Myles Garrett to the Rams, the Jadverse. We just covered all that. The next one, Eagles trade A.J. Brown to the Patriots for a 2028 first-round pick and a 2027 fifth-round pick. Now, we heard that this was coming. We knew it was coming. This is not a surprise for anyone. So much so that A.J. Brown even had a whole interviews lined up to combat against whatever narratives that were going to come out of Philly with the trade being announced, that he already had his interview lined up to be able to push that out there in real time, okay? So we knew that this was happening. We knew this was going to be a thing. And is this a trade that makes sense? It makes sense from Philly's perspective because Philly still has a top-tier wide receiver in Devontae Smith. How he's able to get some picks back. And it's addition by subtraction from a Philly POV, this is an addition by subtraction and you get some picks for it. So from that standpoint, it makes a lot of sense. If you are the Patriots, it makes a lot of sense because despite what Philly and Philly's faithful may tell you, A.J. Brown is still a really good receiver. Now, is he peak Titans, peak first 2 years in Philly? I don't know about that. But even if he ain't that, he's still top 10. So given Drake May, who at times looked lost because his receivers could not get open, given Drake May in year what? This year 2 or 3? This year 3 coming up for Drake May. In year 3 for Drake May, a top 10 wide receiver, that sounds like what the Bills did when they gave Josh Allen Stephon Diggs. Now again, A.J. Brown is better right now than Stephon Diggs was those first couple of years for Josh Allen, but we saw the results right away. Josh Allen was looking to be a bust, and then all of a sudden, he turned a lot of frowns upside down with the addition of Stephon Diggs. Now we're talking about Drake May, who was just in the Super Bowl, albeit we know it was a soft-ass schedule, easiest strength of schedule in the entire league, but they beat who was in front of them. Now to try to combat the Super Bowl fall off or the Super Bowl hangover with the real schedule this year, okay, let's go give him A.J. Brown. So this is a deal that I think works on paper for both teams. But we know how this works. On paper is only a quarter of the battle, not even half the battle. How is this going to work from a football perspective? Business-wise, it makes sense for both sides. How does this work from a football perspective? From a football perspective, I could argue the Eagles got worse because they had 2 top 10 wide receivers, or arguably 2 top 10 wide receivers, and now they're down to 1. Okay, so I can argue that is a problem. I could argue that this doesn't change the fact that the Eagles' offense has been predictable throughout the last 3 seasons. So much so that Lane Johnson has openly complained about it. While everyone else is focusing on the melodrama of Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown, and now we're getting even more tea about that, which I'll let y'all, troll about that. I don't really care about that stuff. What I'm concerned about is that a lot of this fault is going to be rested on A.J. Brown. Well, A.J. Brown's gone. Everything's going to be great now. Slow down. Because the problem was not A.J. Brown. The problem was the offense was predictable. The offense in Philly was predictable. That had nothing to do with a 7-yard dig route by A.J. Brown. The problem is that there was 4 receivers running 7-yard dig routes. So the absence of A.J. Brown does not alleviate that. Lane Johnson, multiple times in back-to-back years, has openly said our offense is too predictable. That has nothing to do with A.J. Brown. He didn't say we're throwing the ball to A.J. Brown too much. He didn't say the offense is too predictable because they know we're throwing to A.J. Brown. He said the other team is calling our plays at the line. That has nothing to do with A.J. Brown. But he's a scapegoat. He's an easy target. He's now a former Eagle. It's open season. So the Eagles got worse. Hard stop to me. But does it matter in the long run? Is the addition by subtraction going to turn into a net positive for the Eagles? That's what we're waiting to find out. I don't think it's an automatic. We can sit here and say, oh, yeah, they're better today. The locker room might be better, and there might be some trickle-down effect because of that, if you want to play into that game. But when it comes right down to it, if that offense is still predictable, if teams are coming to the line of scrimmage and calling out the plays and the routes and the formations before Hurts is even on the center, that has nothing to do with A.J. Brown. Steph in the chat. Another OC for the Eagles, minus a top 10 wide receiver. Could be more of the same in Philly. Look, I mean, I think there's a real conversation to be had in regards to, I'm not anti-Jalen Hurts. Can't do that because of the melanin in my skin. I can't be that on a type of time. However, the offense at times has been predictable. The offense at times has been cookie cutter. The offense at times has been less dynamic. Then when you look at the sum of the parts, I give you Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, one of the best offensive lines in football, Saquon Barkley, good tight ends, Jalen Hurts. Why is that offense not more dynamic? Can you imagine what McVay would have done? Can you imagine what Shanahan would have done? The fact that that Eagles offense was not running through people, and not running through people in terms of running the ball, just running through people in terms of putting 40 on their heads every week, kind of proves my point. That offense on paper should have been walking through everybody, yet they weren't. Yet they struggled to score 20 at times. That doesn't change with the addition by subtraction maneuver of getting rid of A.J. Brown. Now, Howie has been given a lot of benefit of the doubt. Howie's track record in regards to drafting, we might need to start paying attention to that, but you can't be 100%. You can knock out every pick every single year. But in regards to the fact that he was able to get a first and a fifth when he gave up a first and a third a few years ago for A.J. Brown, shows to me that A.J. Brown still held at a high level. If I had to give up a first and a third to get him, and then 4 years later, I could flip him for a first and a fifth, that tells me that player is still at a level. This isn't the fall off. This ain't J. Cole. This isn't the fall off. Like, first and a third to get him, first and a fifth to get rid of him. You can sell that as a huge dub for Howie, but that also speaks to if A.J. Brown wasn't nowhere close to the play that he was when the Eagles first got him, there's no way the Patriots would even have given up that fifth rounder. And there's a lot of narratives that, Howie roasted him for that fifth round pick. He used it as a sweetener, whatever. You can believe all the narratives coming out of Philly if you want, but you got to understand the media plays this game where the people that want to be indebted to the Philly front office and the Philly organization are going to run around with the pom-poms with this trade. People that are holding themselves high and mighty and think of themselves as high-level journalists are going to bow down at the feet of Howie and them, Loria and them, and kiss the ring. So they're going to hold their water for them and go out there and sell that this is a steal of all steals when it's good value. It's good value. I'm not sitting here shitting on the trade. What I'm sitting here telling you is that the Eagles got worse today. Their jobs got harder today. Like, unless you're telling me this new OC is going to do all the things, unless you're telling me that the draft picks that Howie has brought in on the offensive side of the ball are going to come in here and be the most dynamic thing we've ever seen, it really took getting rid of A.J. Brown for all that to happen? It really took A.J. Brown leaving for the offense to not be predictable? When Lane Johnston's saying the other teams are calling out our plays, you have to get rid of A.J. Brown to fix that? It just rings a little strange to me. It does. Steph, who do you see having a better year? Drake London with Tua, Jettas with Kyler, or AJ with Drake? Let's get into Drake, because the money is really funny. And let me move to this side of the screen. Let's go up here. So Drake London gets a 4-year, $141 million extension, right? He is now what I think the 4th highest. Again, let's see. Spot Track has all this stuff. Let's go here. He has the 4th highest in terms of guaranteed money. So the $100 million. So again, 4 years, $141 million extension. 100 of that is guaranteed. That $100 million guaranteed is 4th. It ties with CeeDee Lamb. It is tied for 4th among active wide receiver contracts. Let's go ahead and go to Spot Track because I am curious. Let's see. Drake London. Okay, they don't have the full numbers yet, but they had the basics here. 4 years, 141. It averaged out to 35 in a quarter million. But again, that's funny money. They're adding in the funny money. If we look at it, 4 years, 100 million. That's 25 million guaranteed a year. Okay. But if we're doing contracts, then we want to do rankings, team rankings. All right, Spot Track, come on now. If we're looking at the values in terms of highest ranking contracts for receivers, why are they making this difficult tonight? All right, let me go back to that page. Player rankings, team rankings. My drop downs are not dropping. That's not good. Let's see. Let me zoom out. Okay, there we go. Player rankings, contracts, active contracts. Okay, positions, receivers. Okay, so let's go with guaranteed money. Guaranteed money at signing. Well, they need to update this list if what they just said is accurate, because right now they got Jettas with 88.7, Jamar Chase at 73. This can't be accurate. Okay. Average salary. All right, so here's where the funny money even tricks up the system here at Spot Track. The value, Drake London's 3rd, 141 million, is $1 more million than Jettas. I'm sure Jettas will take care of that very soon. So again, these guys pick contracts and just focus on a number. The agents for these players focus on a number. So right now you see Drake London at $141 million. That is $1 million more than Jettas. You look at his average salary is at $35.25 million. When you look at Jettas, it's $35 million flat. So it's a quarter, $250,000 more average. So again, the agent left the negotiation saying, hey, you're not the highest paid, but I got you more money than Jettas. Even though Jettas has more guaranteed money, when you add in the funny money, he can say he makes more money than Justin Jefferson. And that's where, when you look at the narratives, this is where that stuff gets spun, when we're looking at it just like that, right? Drake London could walk around thinking he makes more money than Justin Jefferson when Justin Jefferson has more guaranteed money than Drake London. If Drake London hits every incentive and every bonus, he'll make $1 million more than Justin Jefferson. But if he skips an OTA, if he misses a workout, if he does any of that stuff, he's not going to make nowhere near that money, because already Justin Jefferson is $10 million up. But to Steph's question, Drake London with Tua, Jettas with Kyler, or AJ with Drake? Who's going to have a better year? I think it's going to be extremely interesting because Drake London now with Tua, I don't like that because it's not like Drake London is not necessarily a great deep threat, but at least he was a threat to be a deep threat. When you have Tua Tagovailoa, I mean, that's going to be a struggle. That's going to be a struggle. So he'll kill with the intermediate stuff. So I think from a PPR perspective, like if we're talking fantasy and stuff like that, like Drake London's numbers could be inflated. But if we're thinking Kyler Murray, it's actually him. And I don't know if Corey's still here, but Corey's the only Kyler Murray supporter that I know. If Kyler Murray does what Corey thinks he can, then the answer is Jettas. The problem is I've seen Kyler Murray be what I think Kyler Murray is, and I don't think Jettas is going to go that crazy with Kyler Murray under center. So then that leaves A.J. Brown with Drake May. I think the safest of that trio is A.J. Brown with Drake May. I think that's the safest option. Because right now that offense is predicated a lot on Drake May running the ball, establishing some kind of running game. The offensive line is solid. Now you throw in A.J. Brown, who can still take the top off on occasion. Not like at his prime in Tennessee or early with the Eagles, but still can occasionally take the top off. And then you have the intermediate stuff where he can still get open. I think that works a lot in the favor of Drake May because now the running lanes open up even more. Drake May was really good at running the ball last year. I think this now improves. Like there's going to be the Josh Allen effect has trickled down to a lot of white QBs, whether it's the Bo Nixes of the world or now the Drake Mays of the world. The Josh Allen thing has spread. Steve Young crawled so Josh Allen could walk, so Drake May could run. So I think what you're going to see is that with the addition of A.J. Brown, it's going to open up the running lanes immensely, even more so for Drake May. So the numbers might fall off. Like, let's see. Let's pull up A.J. Brown's numbers. I mean, the fact that, look, this bread that we're talking, look where A.J. Brown is on this list. DJ Moore has higher value in his salary than A.J. Brown. Now, A.J. Brown makes more money guaranteed. Oh, let me take that comment off so I can see it. A.J. Brown makes more money guaranteed. But DJ Moore, total value with the funny money, makes more money than A.J. Brown. There should never be a scenario on earth where DJ Moore makes more money than A.J. Brown. But yet here we are. Terry McLaurin, total value, makes more money than A.J. Brown. Now, nowhere near in terms of guaranteed money, $44 million to $84 million. But total value, $97 million for Terry McLaurin as opposed to $96 million. So again, you see the games are at play. These agents just say, hey, you're getting more money than this guy, even by $1 million, even though Terry McLaurin's guaranteed money is literally $40 million less than A.J. Brown. But the total value money, Terry McLaurin makes more money. And that's the narrative they'll run with. Oh, Terry McLaurin makes $32.3 million. Like, no, he doesn't. His guarantee is only $44. As A.J. Brown's guarantee is $84. That's a huge difference. But anyway, A.J. Brown's stats, if I could pull that up. Okay, so A.J. Brown played 80% of the snaps last year, 78 receptions, over 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns. Can he run that back in New England? I think those are doable numbers. Now, these first 2 years in Philly, where he had almost 1,500 yards back-to-back years, I don't think that's possible in New England. But can he tread water and do what he did last year? I think so. I think he could get a G. It give you about 7 touchdowns and then be that threat. 70, 80 catches, 80% of the snaps. I think he could do that. But now if we're talking, let's go to Drake London stats now. Now between Penix and Kirk Cousins, oof, look at these snap counts. 65% of the snaps. Now again, only 12 games, so banged up, but still 65% of the snaps, even when he was healthy. 70 balls, 900 yards, 7 touchdowns. So the same amount of touchdowns as A.J. Brown last year. Roughly the same numbers. You could look at that good or bad, okay? And then when we go to Jettas, who had a horrible setup last year at QB, 94% of the snaps, barely over 1,000 yards, so close in terms of yardage in regards to A.J. Brown and Drake London. Only 2 touchdowns. I don't think he's going to run this back. He's certainly not going to have 2 touchdown receptions this year. If he does, he needs to force his way out. Because you don't want to waste any more of your years. Okay? The 84 receptions, over 1,000 yards, I think he could get that off. I don't see the issue in that. I think there's a really good scenario where he could get 84 catches. Again, maybe not the crazy 1,800 yards like the first few years of his career. He's not going to get you 1,800. I don't think he's going to give you 1,600. 1,400 if Kyler Murray is what Corey says he is, maybe. But if he's what I think he is, I'm thinking he's more in that max 1,200 range. 1,200 range, between 6 and 8 touchdown receptions. I think that's where I got Jettas. So the safe pick is that A.J. Brown should have the better year with Drake May. The wild card is Kyler Murray with Jettas. Because if both are playing well, if Kyler Murray finally realizes his potential, maybe him being paired with KOC becomes a thing. If he finally realizes his potential, then yes, him and Jettas could go crazy and put up video game numbers. I think the least likely of that scenario is Tua with Drake London. And I think that speaks more to Tua. So again, recapping everything that happened today. Myles Garrett to the Rams. Allegedly, Aaron Donald is flirting with the possibility of coming back, unretiring. We have A.J. Brown being traded from the Eagles to the Patriots for a 1st and a 5th. A lot of teams are wondering, why was it so locked in that A.J. Brown had to go to the Patriots? But again, this is like we talked about earlier with Myles Garrett. If I am the Eagles and I'm going to move on from A.J. Brown, I'm not keeping him in conference. Why would I trade a player that's still that good? Why would I want to see him potentially when I'm trying to get another Lombardi? I'd rather have to face you for the Lombardi than have to go through you for the Lombardi if you're trying to flip one of your more important assets. So, that's the thing. The Giants, this kind of speaks to the availability potentially of Malik Neighbors, and I'll go back on screen briefly. They signed Odell, but we know that's not a long-term thing. They went and brought in Juju and Braxton Berrios. If that doesn't tell you Malik Neighbors ain't close, I don't know what will. That tells me he ain't close to coming back. He ain't close because you're signing 3 receivers. None of these are anywhere close to being top 20, top 30, maybe even top 40 receivers. You're trying to replace Malik Neighbors, who was in our consensus top 10 list, with 3 dudes who won't even crack the top 50. The Odell thing is a heartwarming thing. It's trying to, Giants trying to make amends for certain things that they have done in the past. That's cool, whatever. But Odell's washed. We know that. It'll be cool just to see him in that uniform. And maybe he'll have a moment or two. But we know that Odell thing is a wrap for that. Cleveland had the last remaining remnants. I mean, you could argue the Rams in the Super Bowl, but then he fell down and went boom, and then he was really never the same. But Cleveland really had the last remnants of its prime, of its peak. I mean, Juju's a journeyman. Braxton Berrios is also ran. Like, the Giants are letting you know that Malik Neighbors is not close to coming back. And that's unfortunate for us. Steph, what receiver had the best statistical year with Kyler? Was it D-Hop? Ooh, that makes sense. Let's see. Let's go back to Spot Track. NFL, Arizona. Stats. Let's go 20. What do you got there? 2020? Stats. Where is it? Come on. Cap, cash, multi-year. Why do they make it so difficult? All right, let me come off the screen and just go to Football Reference, and then we'll get this figured out right away. All right, pull that up. Okay, back on screen. All right, let's go to Arizona. Previous season. We got to find the years when Kyler was actually healthy. All right, 17 games in, what's this, 2024? 17 games in 2024. Receiving. Let's see. Yards. All right, so Trey McBride had 1,100 yards in 2024. So when your tight end is leading your team, that's definitely a red flag. 2023, he only played 8 games. We won't even entertain that one. No, I do not want to sign up for whatever bullshit this is. Clear. He played 11 games in 2022. D-Hop has 700 yards. Hollywood Brown had 700 yards. 2021. 14 games. So 2021, 14 games. Receiving. Christian Kirk had just under $1,000. Like, the whole Kyler thing has really, bro, like, Corey's running from the smoke, but he's flamed out. All right, he was 8-8, 16 games. Let's get that sample. This might be the year Steph was talking about. Yeah, 1,400 yards for D-Hop. That might have been D-Hop's last legitimate year as well. 6 touchdowns, 160 targets. Like, yo, dog, you see the target ratio? 160 targets. D-Hop better have a good year. 160 targets. No one else is even half that. No one else is even half of the targets. Oh, my God. So that might have been a force-feeding type of deal. All right, Calamari, 16 games in 2019. Yeah, Fitzgerald on his last legs, 800 yards. Rest in peace to his pops. And was that it? Yeah, I think that was his rookie year, wasn't it? Yeah, that was his rookie year. So, yeah, that 1 year with D-Hop with 1,400 yards, Steph. But when you look at the target share, like, he had no choice but to put up big numbers. Absolutely no choice. 160 targets. No one else had half that. So, yeah, he had no choice. Absolutely no choice. So let's see what else we got here. Anything else happened since we've been on stream, NFL-wise, before we get up out of here? Yeah, I think the Odell thing is such a PR stunt. Like, again, obviously the Giants have had some things going on in their locker room that they'd rather not have linger too long in the news cycle. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, how can we get their minds off of Abdul Carter and Jackson Dart? Oh, let's go bring Odell back. Let's go ahead and make it official and go get Odell back. Let's have Juju come in and he'll do some dances on TikTok. How can we get people's minds off the fact that our franchise QB was out here running MAGA out here for the love, off the strength on that MAGA wave. How can we get past that? All right, let's go get Juju to do some dances. Let's get Odell back in here. Let's have him, pose for the cameras and do some stuff. Please ignore Jackson Dart. Please ignore that our franchise QB was running with the orange man. Let's please get past that. No Jameis quote can get past that. No, we need Odell and his one-hand grabs to, disguise the fact that our franchise QB, the face of our franchise, the future leader of our team, is running around on some MAGA shit. Let's get Odell smiling, shucking and jiving with the one-hand catches to distract us from what our QB just did. Typical Giants. Absolutely typical Giants. All right, let's see. I'll check a couple more things, and then if not, then we'll wrap it up here. I'll probably put this out as a pod episode. But let's see what else we got here. Yeah, so they're getting at Andrew Barry for trade and Myles Garrett. I won't play the audio for copyright, but you see the transcript here. Reporter, Myles wasn't on the block. Why not open up the bidding and get a few more picks? Andrew Barry, GM of the Browns. That wasn't the goal. The goal was to not get a few more picks. And while this could be used as a slight towards him, I think I know what he's trying to say, even without playing the clip. I think it was like, well, I wanted a good enough player in return. And you're not going to get a 1v1 return for no damn Myles Garrett. However, if you could go get a good player like Jared Verse, who's still extremely cheap and is very young and has way more upside left, and you could get a first-round pick for it, why not do it? Why not? If you could get, a first, a second, and a third, why wouldn't you make that deal? And you get in a player in Jared Verse, who, while there's going to be a lot of comparisons because he's traded for Myles Garrett, but he's no Myles Garrett. But if he keeps doing what he's done, we'll look up his numbers. He's really come on the last couple of years. Like that his first year, he looked the part, but he didn't really look the part. If you watch the tape, last year, not only did he flash, but he flashed with important plays and he was consistent. The thing with Verse was he was consistent, right? So you're getting a guy that's heading into his third year. He's made the Pro Bowl twice, right? Defensive Rookie of the Year. But I still think, to me, last year was his better year. Make of that what you will. The fact that you can get that for the low on a rookie deal for the cheap, if you know you're not going to win with Myles Garrett, clearly the Browns were not winning anything significant with Myles Garrett. If I can flip and get the Defensive Rookie of the Year, a two-time Pro Bowler heading into his third year for the low, with 2 years left for $5 million per, guaranteed bread, easy money, and then string that out if he performs. If Jared Verse performs, now we have the rights to where we can franchise tag him and drag that out. Like, so not only do they have the 2 years left on his contract, his rookie deal, but then they can do the Lamar thing of just franchise tag him for 2 more years at a bigger number, of course, but not the crazy extension bag. So you could get 4 years at market value or below market value performance of a guy who's already made the Pro Bowl twice in 2 seasons. So if you're going to give up Myles Garrett, you're not going to get a player the caliber of Myles Garrett. But if I could get a close enough value player where he's not Myles Garrett good, but Jared Verse is still really, really good, and I get a pick in return, a few picks in return, a first, a second, and a third, and financially, I'm saving buku bread, and I now have control rights over Jared Verse for the foreseeable future, at least over the next 4 years, because 2 years guaranteed, and then I could franchise tag him 2 years after that. I think that's great than just expecting, oh, I want 4 first-round picks for Myles Garrett. That works in Madden. But if we're talking real life, we're talking about constructing a team in real life, give me Jared Verse in a first, a second, and a third for the foreseeable future, as opposed to I want all the picks right now. So while people are going to try to insinuate that the Browns got thrashed here or they got fleeced here, I don't see that as of right now. Now, if they trick those picks off and Jared Verse just continues just being really good, then yeah, that's a bad trade. Because Myles Garrett is going to be one of them. He may even win a Lombardi. So you trade away a guy that's going to be the final piece of potentially a Super Bowl champion, and all you got was a really good player in Jared Verse. That's a problem. You got to hit on at least 2 of these 3 picks that you traded for in this deal. He can't go 1 for 3 or 0 for 3. He's got to go 2 for 3 with these picks. And Jared Verse has to continue ascending. Then you can all right, it makes sense. As opposed to, I'm going to trade Myles Garrett, I'm just going to take a shit ton of picks back, and we'll figure it out from there. That's the video game way to look at it. That's not reality. There's 2 trains of thought. You can either let me get the best available player that I can for this high-level asset in Myles Garrett and get some draft collateral with it, or screw finding a player that's close enough to Myles Garrett. I just want all the draft capital in the world. I don't think there's nothing wrong with Andrew Berry going with the former as opposed to the latter. All right. I think that'll wrap it up for me here. I appreciate those that have pulled up. Appreciate Steph, Patrick, Corey in the chat. I'll clean this up and put it out there as a podcast episode so those folks over there can tap in. But this has been either Timeline T or the DCMD podcast, depending on where you've been listening. But I go by the name of DCMD. I appreciate all of y'all for tapping in. If you haven't tapped in with the tech channel, I started the second YouTube channel. It's called Shill Free Tech. If you want to tap in over there, look up at Shill Free Tech. If you're on the podcast side, there'll be a link for it in the podcast description. So I go by the name of DCMD. I appreciate y'all for pulling up. I'll holler at y'all again very, very soon.